So this is a meeting of the Townsend Board of Zoning Appeal. I think we're going to start off, Dana has provided us with the minutes from the last meeting. So if you want to go ahead and take a quick look at that, we will approve them. Any corrections? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, say yea.
Yay.
Okay. Okay, unanimous. We're gonna go to, they can't hear me. Okay. I apologize.
So tall you're
Okay. A couple announcements. Don Stallions, who is the chair, or has been the chair of the zoning, Board of Zoning Appeals, has resigned. So I am the vice chair, so that's why I'm running this meeting. Also, another member, Pat Jenkins, was recently elected to be the Board of Commissioners, which means he will be moving off this board also. So we're going to talk toward the end of the meeting about the process to replace and re-elect. Any questions? Okay, on the agenda we have a place for public comments. Anybody wishing to make a public comment? Okay, all right. So now we will move to new business. We have an item, actually we have two applications for appeals by Mr. Aker.
Yes.
Aker, yes. You gentlemen have all seen, reviewed this. I'll give my comments and then we'll open up to board members on your comments. Reviewing the two applications, the one is designated for a B1 zone, the others for a B2 zone. That conversation was held earlier in the planning commission. So it is designated that this property, so it's two applications for the same property. One is for a commercial barn and one is for a tiny house.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. It's not an application, this is an appeal.
Appeal, okay, I'll refer to it as an appeal. So I have concerns about that. We also have a letter from from our building inspector. And basically in this letter, he states that these applications, the appeal note was sent with documentation on the type of buildings and things under the appeal. But that was never given to him. It came straight to the BZA. We understand that there was no site plan ever produced in order to allow this appeal. So I think we're going to have a challenge really processing these. So input from the other board members.
I think you have to take action on what he specifically asked for. For instance, this one says indoor business, storage, RVs, antique cars, and showing them approve a 30 by 60 by 22 steel building. And if you read our zoning ordinances for storage buildings, they have to be zoned B3, not B2. So that makes this difficult to deal with. But also, rezoning any property is not our
It's not the
bailiwick.
business.
It has to be done by the planning commission and then forwarded to the city commission for approval. You and I are not, if you read all of our codes, you and I are not authorized to rezone any property.
So a party doesn't appear before the Board of Zoning Appeals to get their zone rezoned,
That is correct.
even though that's basically what they just told me I'd have to do.
Now, what they told you was you have to go to the planning commission to ask for a property to be rezoned. You don't ask the BZA.
Okay, what about asking the Board of Zoning Appeals for a conditional use permit?
That's not what you put on your
I
request.
understand, I was just asking if I apply for that next month, is that something that you are willing to hear?
We're willing, I'm going to speak for myself. I'm willing to hear that because that's one of the things that you have the right to ask for. I won't tell you how to come out, but you have the opportunity to convince us,
Okay.
okay?
I agree with Pat. This appeal, I'm concerned about the zoning, I'm concerned about the planning commission meeting before. I'd like to see the process with this be discussed as rezoned and the protocol take place.
So, do I ask the Board
If you
of,
come up to the mic, please.
so do I request the Board of Zoning Appeals do I request my non-conforming use from the Board of Zoning Appeals, or does that go before the Planning Commission first? Right now, it's not listed as a permitted use and is evidently supposed to go before the Board of Zoning Appeals since it's not a permitted use.
Let me clarify how I think it is.
All right,
I think you have to go to the planning commission. That's our process. You have to bring your site plan. They have to go through it. They have to say, this is not a permitted use. And you have to come to the Board of Zoning Appeals to say, hey, the planning commission said this is the permitted use. I'm asking for special exemption because of blah, 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 blah. And then we would rule on that. That's the way I think it has to be. Now, I know that creates a burden on you because
it's a
you have,
huge expense,
you
yes.
have to do the site plan and you have to have all the documentation that it requires for the planning commission to review it. That's what everybody else does, so.
And if I could add another thing, please. It has to meet certain tests. It has to show that there's hardship, that there's no substantial detriment to the public good, that it cannot substantially impair the intent and purpose of the ordinance. And then, if you're going to make a decision, it has to come with conditions and and you have to disclose special circumstances that allow him to not follow the rules as anyone else would be required to follow.
And that paragraph you just said is one of the things we would take into consideration when we hear his appeal, since he's going to ask the planning commission to do something and they might not let it. But when he comes here, one of the things we'll consider is that paragraph, okay? I'm speaking out of turn.
No, you're not.
Okay.
And I appreciate it.
Okay.
So, I I can apply for the conditional use permit directly to you via an application to appear before you next month.
No.
And then,
You gotta go to the planning commission first, get them to review what you wanna do with the site plan and all those deals, and when they turn you down, then you come to the BZA and say, hey, I want a conditional use approval because the planning commission turned me down and I don't think they should.
so my conditional use permit doesn't require any building.
Any physical building?
Correct.
That's correct.
So I mean, mine does not. There's not a site plan.
It requires a site plan for the planning commission to review and all the documents that are involved. And there's a lot of documents involved, and that's what every business owner has to do to apply to the planning commission
For a private home.
for anything on B1, B2, or B3.
But there's nobody in B2 or B3.
Right. But there may be.
Hmm.
There may be. You might ask to have yours rezoned to B3, and you might be successful. I don't know. But
And I don't ask you all, I ask the planning commission.
yes, we're only a tiebreaker if you disagree with what they've said. Okay? I know it's a pain in the butt, but that's the way it is.
It's time and money's all it is.
I know. I know. Okay? Did I explain it clear enough? So you understand, you
It's
don't have
clear as
to.
good, since it sounded like they were telling me I needed to ask you these
Well, they
questions.
can't. You have to get the planning commission to either say yay or nay. And then you can come to us if you don't agree with them.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
So that said, I don't think that these two appeals are appropriate at this time, considering the conversations that you've had with the planning commissions, you have a path. So we're not going to take action on these appeals tonight. I would see that if down the road that you would come to this board again, these appeals would probably not apply or would be different.
Correct, you can throw those away.
Right, so I don't see any sense in us taking action on these appeals. Is that agreed by the board?
I agree by the board.
Okay, we're not gonna take action. Okay. So that's the only new business, other business, administrative items. So now that we are losing two members of our board, we are going to have to go through the process of electing new officers. But I would prefer that we wait a month, maybe even 2 months, until we have the new members identified and voted on by the Board of Commissioners, so that they can be involved and potentially fill those seats. Until that time, I will chair this board until that happens.
One other thing you could do, you could explain how people who might be interested in being on the BZA could apply for that position. I'd love to give somebody my position and how they're approved by the city commission.
So the mayor is reaching out, he's going to reach out to the community for people who have interest in serving on this board. So you can contact the mayor, and he's the person that will present the proposed new member to the Board of Commissioners. And once voted, they will become ornament. Yes.
So I would like to make a motion that the election of the replacement for the chair others be pushed till all seats are full.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. Yea or nay? Vote.
Yeah,
I agree.
I agree. Okay, unanimous.
so it's in the record.
Any other business for this board? We have a motion to adjourn.
Pat, make a motion.
I'll make a motion that that we adjourn.
All right, do I have a second?
I second that.
Vote, yea or nay? Yeah. Thank you, everyone.